At the end of the previous video, we had everything working with static routing, but now we want to make it all work with a routing protocol. Imagine a scenario where instead of having two VLANs down here that are they can be easily summarized with one IP route command. Imagine we have 50 subnets and they're all different, which would require different route commands. And imagine a scenario where instead of having one router up here, we have like maybe 4 to 6 routers. So we would have to go add all 50 of those static routes to all of those routers, and that's just not easily managed. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove the static routes, and then we're going to configure a routing protocol, and then that routing protocol will allow the routers to share the information between them. This week's lab is not about routing protocols and how routing protocols work. That's what we'll be doing next week. But we're just going to go ahead and do the config and be like, ooh, look at that, it worked. So what we're going to do first is go take the static routes off. Take the static routes off. So if we look at our running config, we're going to get rid of these 2 static routes. So take them off. And we'll look at our routing table to verify they're gone. It's always a good idea to make sure the change you made had the desired effect, because I've very recently in videos that I started and stopped screwed stuff up and didn't notice because I didn't verify my changes. So if we look at the running config for this one, we just have the static default routes. We'll get rid of that. And then if we verify that, we have just a connected route. So if we just want to make sure everything's not working, we can go ping 100, 100, 102. It's failing. That's what we want it to do right now. It's failing. So this week, like I said, we're just going to configure OSPF and not worry about what's really going on. So to do that, we're going to go into our router and configure it. We're going to enable OSPF with the process ID 1, and we're going to enter a network statement. Network. We're just going to enter this for this week. This basically says enable OSPF for any IP addresses I have and put them in area 0. You can also specify specific subnets, so I could put 10.243.33. whatever, and then a mask that matches that, a wildcard mask that matches that. But we're not going to do that. We're just going to do the most simple way to do it. Configured on the 2811. Again, process ID 1, area 0. And now in theory, our routers should exchange routing protocol information and learn routes from each other. If we look over here, we got a debug message saying that this router learned some routing information from that other router. We haven't got that from this router yet. So we do show IP route over here. See what we learned. So we have one OSPF route so far where this router learned about a 100, 100, 100 network from 243.1, and now this router's come up with OSPF and they have shared their information. So now this router has learned about the 192.168.243.0 subnet from the other router. It also learned about the 100, 100, 100 0 network from the other router. And this router should have learned about the 10 networks. Yeah, so there we go. Now this router's learned about the 2 10 networks we're using on our LAN. So at this point, OSPF has exchanged all the information that needs to be exchanged between the routers. So now, in theory, my ping should work again. So now my ping's working again using the information shared by the routing protocols. So that is what we're doing this week in the lab to exercise the routing protocols and look at static routing. So take good notes, be ready to go when we get there.